I am completely blacked out on Ambien and alcohol, and we are having a full-blown wrestling match in my driveway. I'm like, I have no shirt on. My pants are getting ripped. It was like so nauseating to watch 22 years later. But I used to go out and I would have Ambien and we would get to a bar and take an Ambien or two and chase it with a shot and just see where the night took us.
Bad decisions. Bad decisions. Bad decisions.
Okay, welcome back to the Bad Decisions podcast. My guest today is Jack Osbourne. Jack is a friend of mine for over 20 years. He's a British-born TV personality and producer and son of the founder of heavy metal, the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, super manager and producer, television personality Sharon Osbourne, and brother to Kelly and Amy. He's the father of 4 and the most fertile man I've ever known. It seems that every time we speak, he has a new baby. To ladies listening to the audience today, this show is not responsible for any unwanted listener pregnancies. Jack, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, just trucking along. I'm glad we're doing this.
Me too. We just before I start rapid firing questions at you, of which I had little time to prepare. Tell me what's going on with you. You're the modern day James Brown.
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's see what's going on. So we launched Osbourne Media House, which is kind of it's a web-based media company to do with everything Osbournes. So we have the original Osbourne series available now, and a new series where we watch the old episodes and basically give our opinion of it 22 years later, which is kind of wild. And what else? Can those
all be binged, or do you roll them out one at a time?
So we've been rolling them out one at a time, but we are going to have a binging option. So that is coming.
Okay, because generationally, I missed it. I didn't start watching them until after I met you, and then there's not that many out there to be found.
No, we were in this very lucky position where we retained ownership of the show after it had gone off the air, and so I don't know why they did this, but the powers that be on my parents' side of business kind of just locked it away. And now,
yeah, that's amazing. That was a question. And I would imagine, I don't know. I've never even met your mother, and I'm afraid of her. I wouldn't want to tangle with her in a business deal.
Oh, she's fine. She's a softie. Just don't try and fuck her over, and you're good.
Yeah. To go. No, I just mean like she's the one you want. She's the one you want to have your back.
Yeah. Yep, this is true. Very lucky.
So, yeah, no, like I was saying, you and I met, you were already sober. How old were you when you got sober? I can't remember, but I think do you have 30 years?
No, I got sober when I was 17. So I just celebrated 21 years.
Amazing. Huge achievement. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I know you're not uncomfortable talking about your addictions and battles, and you've always been there for me and many friends of mine. 17 is pretty young to throw in the towel, but you also started adulthood pretty young.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those
quite
things.
Drew Barrymore, but you were out young.
Yeah. No, I was hitting the clubs at 15, and experiencing all the splendors of Hollywood at a young age, back when this city was awesome, and you write about that plenty in your book.
Yeah, and the pre-TMZ zone, like a lot of things you could have gotten into a lot of trouble for that you didn't because there weren't paparazzi.
Yes, but there weren't the same kind. There wasn't the video paparazzi. There was photo paparazzi. But when the video came into effect, and then when cell phone cameras came into effect, it completely neutralized a lot of fun.
It's true for me. Yeah, for me, photography was for nerds, like it was me and Davis Factor and Randall. There was not that many people taking pictures in clubs, and we certainly weren't selling anybody out with them. We were just having fun party pictures. But we actually, I tell young people how we actually used to talk to people face to face and exchange phone numbers and call each other the next day and make plans and say, what's going on tonight? Oh, we're going to this party. We're having a group dinner. Then we're going to this after party, and we actually interrelated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and every generation thinks theirs is the best, but I just think like we had a much more human experience versus a virtual experience.
I think that period of time, it was the last time it became about just human interaction. It wasn't about posting pictures online. It wasn't about getting clout because whatever, dating apps. It was organic, and you went to a place, you went inside, and you communicated with people.
Yeah, and people weren't behind velvet ropes. You couldn't buy your way in. You were just in.
Yeah.
It was sort of like the Playboy Mansion. I felt kind of got ruined that way. Like in the early days, I mean, it was always kind of skanky, but once they started being able to where anyone could swipe their father's credit card and buy a table there, it was all over.
Yeah.
And clubs were the same way.
Well, and it was, listen, but I mean, let's be honest, it's probably a good thing that the Playboy Mansion changed, because like you said, it was pretty fucking gross. It was fun.
No, Heft died at the right time, because if he would have lived 3 more years, forget it.
Yeah.
Same with Robert Evans. Same with a lot of people died at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different landscape now.
So of all of your consciousness altering entertainment product stories you ever told me, the most outrageous was that you used to take Ambien and go out. Now,
yes,
I took Ambien and went out once, and it was by accident. I went to Rock and Roll Ralph's on Sunset, didn't remember it. I bought $475 worth of frozen food, including 3 turkeys, all things I had never bought before. And I woke up in the morning and they were all melted all over my living room floor. And that's when I knew that me and Ambien had to start seeing other people. So tell me what you saw in that drug, the blackout drug, that you went out.
It's funny. So on Osbourne Media House right now, like I said, we're rewatching the old episodes of the Osbournes. And there's a scene where I have a fight with a guy by the name of Jason Dill. He's the guy that is the founder of Fucking Awesome, the skate brand.
Okay.
Now, back then he was a professional skater and a buddy of mine. But I am completely blacked out on Ambien and alcohol, and we are having a full-blown wrestling match in my driveway. I'm like, I have no shirt on. My pants are getting ripped. It was like so nauseating to watch 22 years later. But I used to go out, and I would have Ambien, and we would get to a bar and take an Ambien or 2 and chase it with a shot and just see where the night took us. It was purely, it was like chemical Russian roulette. You're like, I don't know how this is going to go.
It's the most Russian roulette of all drugs. I would feel safer taking acid and going to clubs. To me, that is the most inconceivable thing. Like, I have to hide my phone from myself when I took Ambien.
Yeah, it was not my proudest moment. It makes for a good story. Usually not the proudest moments do make for a good story, but yeah.
Living proof. So what I didn't know you then. What else? Were you a big drinker? Were you a stimulants guy? Were you a downers guy? Because
I was pills, downers, weed, like anything I could. I was not a stimulant guy. I didn't want to be a scared cat on a screen door. I was like, no, let's just like turn reality off. So yeah, that was my vibe. God, I do not miss it. Oh fuck. When I see guys that I used to party with who have continuously yo-yoed in and out of getting sober and relapse, and I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, I'm grateful that that struggle, I managed to put a cap on it, but I am very much a work. Thank you. But I'm very much a work in progress. It's things don't just disappear.
Yeah, you're never done.
No.
What else did I want to ask you? Yeah, we were born one day apart. and a couple of decades. It's funny. I did Daniela Clark and Barbara Ann Wild's show a couple weeks back, and she has the
Yeah.
same birthday as you, because she was
Yep,
looking
she
at my
does.
book, and she was like, "Oh, you have our godson's, on the back cover, and he and I have the same birthday." And I'm like, "Well, we're one day apart, so we had a little Scorpion trilogy there."
There you go. Right on. Right on.
So let's talk about the Osbournes for a minute, because I know you've told me some interesting stories about it, and you've also produced a lot of TV shows. How different was unscripted television back then than now?
Back then, it was truly unscripted. You know, we would shoot from 9 a.m. to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on what was going on at the house.
How many crew were in your house that time?
In the house physically, it was only a sound man and maybe 2 cameramen. It was very tight. Everything was they had radios on, and the director would, he would give them direction while in the garage. So the garage got turned into like a video village, control booth, like you would like a live, studio kind of thing. So monitors everywhere, director and producers and story producers and people just tracking what's going on. And it was huge. It was for a 30-minute show. Our budget was over $500,000 an episode. That's without talent fees included. Now,
how many crew were? How many crew were in the garage? How many crew made an episode of the Osbournes? Give or take.
I would say it was probably a crew of 10. There was probably 10 to 15 people in the house, and there would be two crews, because you can't work more than 12 hours, so they would switch it out.
Yeah, but they didn't seem to have a problem working you that many hours.
No, but it was a different game. It was like we're filming a documentary. Like that was the attitude of it.
And were you and Kelly getting homeschooled or anything?
There was a period where we were, and then we just stopped all of it. I was studying for a high school proficiency test that I never took, and then many years later I got my GED. But yeah, it was loose, man. It was really loose. There was not a whole lot of rules, and it just snowballed. It was meant to be 3 weeks, and we were going to film a pilot, and it was an experiment, and no one had ever done it. And
were you before Paris and Nicole? Were you before Simple Life? And you were before Gastineau Girls? You were the first.
Yes. Yeah. Before because it went us, and then it went Anna Nicole Smith.
Oh, right.
Then it went Newlyweds, and then everything just came out after, like everything.
So where did the idea come from? Who pitched it?
Initially, what it was, Kelly and I some years earlier, about a year earlier, MTV came to the house to film an episode of Cribs. My dad pulled a rock star and was like, "Fuck that, I'm not doing Cribs. I just want to be left alone. Send them away." And they were like, "We can't go. We're here. Like, this is a lot of money that we're now not gonna lose." So Kelly and I stepped in, and we hosted the Cribs episode, and we took the cameras around the house and showed them everything and da-da-da. And my dad, we were making fun of him the whole time because he was in a bad mood, and we would like see him in his room and whatever. When that episode came out, that was the most requested repeat that they would get. People would write in or call in to MTV to be like, "Can you play that episode again, please?" So
was Mom
MTV,
in it?
Yeah.
And Amy never?
I believe she was in it. I believe she was.
Okay.
But I can't remember now.
All right. Sorry. Continue.
No, it's fine. Fast forward, MTV reaches out and says like, "Hey, is there a world where Jack and Kelly would do some more work for MTV?" Like and the word VJ got thrown around, and like being 15 years old, it's 2000. It's like, that's the tip of the,
that's the dream.
That is the dream. MTV was the biggest thing for, teens and young adults around. It was the tastemaker for the planet. So we're like, fuck yeah. We
No,
sat down.
it was. Go ahead.
Go on. No, go.
No, I was going to say it was my dream too. So I had this cousin, I still have her, in New York City, and she's a TV producer. She produced like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but she was one of the first 4 or 5 hires at MTV at the birth of it, you know, in the Abby
Wow.
Konowich days. So when I was in New York for a new music seminar, she said, "Do you want to come by the MTV studios?" And I was like, more than anything in this world. And she brought me into the old building with the brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Adam Curry was on, and I just sat there sat there on a stool transfixed, and I watched. I must have been there for 9 hours. I went through like 3 VJs, and it was back when I had the long hair and the Harley Davidson, and I was just like, I'm the guy. I should be on this. I didn't have the stones to ask, and I'm sure they would have said no, but that was what I wanted to be too.
But once again, kids today, you know, young people today don't know what the impact of MTV was at the time. Anyway, so we had dinner with MTV, some of the execs, and we just spitballed around this idea, and it landed at, let's do the Real World, but with our family. And that's how it kind of came to be.
And at the risk of sounding stupid, how many seasons was it?
3.
And who quit who?
It was a combination. We could have kept going. They wanted to keep going. Our ratings had, you know, we had crazy numbers, and then they kind of leveled off, and we had like that core fan base. And we all sat around and said, listen, let's end this ourselves when we're still kind of worth something, and versus waiting till this gets shit canned and everyone's just kind of like, you know, we're done with. And so that's what we did.
Got you. And for the most part, everybody had fun. Your dad enjoyed the process?
Yeah, you know, it's been really weird watching it back. I think there's a lot of it brings up a lot of strange feelings, you know, and I'll send you an episode. There's some really funny things, but then there's some also kind of sad things. There's things like, okay, it's funny watching me wrestle my buddy Dill when I was 15 high on Ambien and booze, but it's also really fucked up that I was 15 wrestling my buddy Dill high on Ambien and booze, you know?
But it's nice with the benefit of hindsight that you can
100%.
Send that message to the next generation that this is not the path. This is the path. And
yes.
What's interesting to me is I didn't know that you, and as long as I've known you, you've always been a very driven guy. Were you, I don't think it was your parents pressuring you. Were you, you know, they say Navy SEALs are born, not made. Were you always a driven, ambitious guy? And what's a typical day like for you?
I think so. I think, yeah, I always wanted to experience more. Like the normal wasn't really, I don't know. I was like, there's more to this than what's right in front of me. And I want to pursue that. And so after the Osbournes, that's really when I realized like, oh wait, the power is in producing stuff. It's not in just being on camera talent. Cause at the end of the day, I can be hired and fired, but if you create it and you own it, it's a little harder. So that's where I turned to that.
Can we talk about that process a little bit? What's
Sure.
the process of producing shows like Portals to Hell and Adrenaline Junkie and Ozzy and Jack's World Detour? What's the process of formulating an idea and getting a show made, getting it funded, getting it made?
Sure. So networks release these mandates, and it's like, here's what we're looking for. Here's our demographic. This is what we're trying to fill. This is, you know, and it's a breakdown of what they're looking for. And then as a creator, you have to sit around and go, all right, have I got an idea that fits any of those, you know, buckets? And so if you do, great, you go and develop it. Back in the day, you had to go film a sizzle reel. So you would film like a mini taste of like, what is the network buying?
Like a trailer.
Yeah, exactly. And you flesh out the idea, you know, you try and have all the answers to the questions, you know, the network's going to want, you know, answers to, if they like it. And you have an agent, they make the appointment at the network, you go in, you pitch it. And if they like it, there's a couple things that they can do. You know, back in the day, they often would go straight to series on things. Now there's a lot of steps. So it's like, let's do a development. And then if that's good, let's do a, you know,
A pilot.
a pilot, but sometimes not even a pilot. Sometimes they do these things of like, can we do a teaser, which is a little bit more than a sizzle, but it's in between a sizzle and a pilot. So it might not be a full 44-minute episode. It might be a 20-minute episode. And so that's kind of the process. And the way the industry works now is that for the young, new, brilliant producer, there's no way in hell you get to make your own show. What'll happen is, if you have an agent, the agent will partner you up with a bigger production company that will take half of your show, and you get your name, you get your credit, but it gets you in the door to eventually, after you've done this a few times and you have relationships, then they actually let you produce it, you know, brick and mortar style.
Yeah. Now, scripted and unscripted are two totally different animals. And I always thought my book should be a television show. That was always kind of the plan. That's why I wrote these as little vignettes. And now I've had people sniffing around, and I'm on what I call the free Caesar salad tour, where I take meeting after meeting. And now I'm just sort of getting impatient. I'm a Midwestern. I'm a Chicago guy. You can tell me to go fuck myself. You can tell me you love it. But I keep having these meetings, and now I'm just getting exhausted. Now I'm just like, you made me drive to Beverly Hills at 4:30 on a Thursday. I appreciate the free salad, but do you have a bag full of money and a casting director or not?
Yeah. But what advice did I give you? I said, make it a cartoon and do a podcast.
Well, I'm doing the podcast, but I think I'm not sure. I think you might be right about the cartoon. But I just had a producer, a fairly prominent producer, reschedule lunch with me 5 times.
Oh wow!
And then when I finally show up at Porta Via on a Thursday at 4:30, she said, "So, you have a book? What's it about?" And I'm like, "You've got to be shitting me right now."
Wow, that's embarrassing for her.
Yeah, she was not embarrassed at all.
Wow. But here's the thing, man. The tides are changing so rapidly in this city. Like, the golden era is done. Well, number one, TV networks aren't buying unscripted like they used to. Like, this time, like a year ago, or maybe a little longer than that, maybe 18 months ago, there was about the word was there was 100 shows in production. A couple months back, my VP at the company, he was having lunch with a friend, and he goes, "Yeah, I've heard of 6 shows that are in production right now."
Across all cable?
Across all cable, non-scripted. And it's drying up, man. Like, it's very, and you can see a lot of these streaming services are panicking because with non-scripted, you can't compete with YouTube. And they don't know what to do. I mean, all right, my show, Portals to Hell, or any of the paranormal shows I did, for cable standards, got great numbers. I'd get 500,000, 900,000, premiere night views. And it was like, oh, great, awesome, good numbers. But on YouTube, you get 900,000 views. That's like, cool. You're going up against people that get 50 million views, 100 million views.
Mr. Beast.
And so an advertiser is going to go, why am I going to give this network crazy amounts of money for 1% of the views when I can give not so crazy amount of money to YouTube or some influencer and get 100 times the views? So there is a changing of the guard.
So what does the horizon look like? What do you think the future is?
I don't know. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see some of these conglomerate media companies selling off pieces. So, you had Discovery Warner merged, and that was huge. It's the biggest media company in the world has ever seen. They own hundreds of channels across the world. They own Warner Brothers, CNN, like everything. And they're basing that on subscriptions. But if they don't get those subscriptions, it's things start losing money. Like the economics don't add up, and eventually, and cable's going to be gone in 5 years. I believe cable television will cease to exist.
I think so too, and satellite. Yeah, and now nobody can figure out how to do this Viacom deal. And honestly, I can't really understand why anyone would even want it.
Yeah, I think the sell by date is gone.
Yeah,
Being
you've
gone.
got the Paramount library, some value,
Mm-hmm.
MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, BET. So,
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see.
But here's the thing: if so many of those assets that you're talking about were marketed towards youth, well, that youth is that those networks we're familiar with are now middle-aged, and so that okay, cool, they can know how to find it, but the kids today, they don't give a shit about Nickelodeon. They just want to turn on YouTube.
Exactly right. Even I want to turn on YouTube.
Yeah. My dad, here's where I knew things were like, all right, game over. My dad no longer watches cable TV. He only watches YouTube. He's a 75-year-old man with an iPad.
What does Ozzy watch on YouTube? I know he's a big history buff, but what else is he into that might surprise us?
Ton of history stuff, so that's no surprise. He watches a bunch of those like gun guys. He loves Demolition Ranch.
Oh, I like those guys too. Yeah.
He watches like weird stuff about like this guy that makes these like rat traps, these like elaborate rat traps to capture rodents. So he watches stuff like that. And some of the things he watches, you're like, really? But it's kind of like, I guess a little bit, it's just easy watching. So,
exactly. Some things are just relaxing. Have you ever watched that Steve 1989 guy?
No.
Steve 1989 is a landscaper in Central Florida who eats expired military rations. And I'm not just talking about stuff from the Gulf War. Yeah.
I watched this for the first time very recently.
No, we're obsessed
within the last
with him.
week.
Me and a dozen friends, like we bought all of his merchandise. He found a hardtack cracker from the Civil War. He eats rations from World War II.
Wow. That's awesome.
And he has this very strange way of speaking that's kind of appealing. And
I watched a guy yesterday. He built a wooden ship out of paper and like balsa wood, like like perfect model of like the Santa Maria. And it was just like a sped up time lapse for 35 minutes. I was just watching this guy.
I love people who build things and fix things. I find it relaxing. You know, those people that restore like watches or anvils or pencil sharpeners. It brings my blood pressure down. It's like watching an aquarium. And this military food guy just has a smooth voice. So he's just like, you know who likes 90-year-old Chesterfield cigarettes? This guy. It is just full of joy eating like Franks and beans from Vietnam and smoking old cigarettes.
That's crazy. But to that point, right? That tells me that ultimately cable TV got it wrong, because they in a million years would never have given that guy a platform, yet he gets probably millions of views. And so why are they the tastemakers when it comes? Why should they be the gatekeepers to what people find entertaining and what people don't?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the arbiter of culture is the consumer now.
Yeah.
You know, the customer votes with their dollar. It's democratized. You have a name, but Mr. Beast didn't. The people spoke. They liked it. And thousands of other people that make millions. I mean, that 13-year-old that unboxes toys that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah, Ryan's Toy Review.
Yeah, is that the one?
Name. Yeah, but you know what I find the most miraculous? Like it just kind of proves my point all that much more. The Sean Ryan Show, one of the biggest podcasts there are right now. There is not a single network in the world that ever would have given that guy an interview show. And he's
the Hot Wings guy?
No. Sean Ryan's the Navy SEAL guy, and he's kind of monotone in his voice.
Oh, I haven't seen him. Okay.
Oh, he's got a huge podcast. So he's a retired Navy SEAL, and he brings on everyone from like, it's kind of like the Rogan type guests, and he does these long 3-hour interviews, kind of like Rogan. And they're great. They're these great interviews, and there's nothing particularly like, the guy doesn't exude wow factor like I'm an amazing host interviewer, or he's, but he just does these great interviews, and I just love that. I think it's amazing that he has pursued what he wanted to do, and it fucking worked.
Yeah. And, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, I had a lot of back and forth with my network, and I said, some of the best storytellers I know and the most interesting people I know aren't famous. They're grips and gaffers and people that have been to prison and sidemen and rock bands. And they were like, season 2, Scott, you gotta get numbers in the door. And they're not wrong, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to strike this balance because I'm trying not to lead with celebrity, but to lead with story and to have stories not die with people.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And like, just from getting into the podcast game myself over the last couple of years, like I would say, like, it's a long game. It's a year-long test to see if it works. It's not like a month or 2 or 1 season. You gotta go for a year to be like, okay, what's my audience? What do they like? What don't they like? What can I change? And it's fun though. It's fun because it's instant feedback.
Look, I enjoy this. I was talking to a friend a couple days ago who's had a legacy podcast for 12 years. And I said, have you made any money from this? She said, I've made literally hundreds of dollars from this. And I'm like, oh, God. So to change gears, I want to talk about your MS a little bit. So
Sure.
I remember when you were first diagnosed, it was terrifying for you, for everyone around you, for me. And you said that half your face was paralyzed. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, that was when I got Bell's palsy a little later. No, I got I went blind in my right eye. And then and then my leg, previous to that, my legs had gone numb for like a few months.
That was related to the MS.
Yeah.
Now, from the point of your initial diagnosis to your stem cell treatments, last we discussed it, I think you did 3 rounds of stem cells.
No, I just did some more stem cell recently, actually in LA of all places. Who knew that you can do stem cells in LA?
Yeah. What country did you do it in? Austria?
I went to Germany. Yeah.
Germany. Okay. So go ahead. Start at the beginning.
So in 2014, I went to Germany and I did a type of stem cell there, where it was extracted from my blood, and then they inject it after they cultivate them for 10 days, they re-inject them back into your body, into my lymphatic system. And the thought was, well, you have an autoimmune disease. We're not going to treat the affected area. We're going to treat the cause of the autoimmune. So we're going to fix your immune system. And that was 2014. So going on 10 years. And I've honestly, like, I've had a few little things here and there, but touch wood, I'm doing pretty well on that front. And I ain't rocking.
Are you largely asymptomatic?
Largely asymptomatic, yes. There's stuff that comes with MS, which is like, could it be MS? Could it not? It's, more, but I don't know. Like, I feel good. There's nothing I physically can't do. I'm very active. And I'm pretty stoked. I just had a spine procedure recently, and when I was recovering from it, I started having symptoms which I thought were MS, but it wasn't. It was just like my spine kind of readjusting to what I had done. And yeah, that was I was like, fuck, man, really? Right now? Like, oh, this sucks. But it wasn't. It was just nerve stuff from my back.
Why do you think it is that you responded so well to this treatment, but some people don't respond at all to it?
The only thing that I ever say is, like, MS is as unique to the individual that has it as their own fingerprint. It is different with anyone I meet like that has it, no one has the exact same story. It's not like common like an any other disease, because it
It's
can
not
affect.
diabetes, yeah.
Yeah, it's not diabetes. It's not, freaking skin cancer. It's where it's, you kind of know there's the paths it will take are pretty well defined. This is because you have nerves in every part of your body. So every part of your body can be affected. You just don't know what or how or when. How is going blind in your right eye and going numb in your legs? You would be like, how is that related? Other than the fact that, well, there's nerves in both. So that's kind of, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So from when you got your first round of stem cells,
Mm-hmm.
did you feel immediate relief? Did you feel nothing? What was that process like?
Nothing. You don't feel it for 100 days. And it's very gradual over 100 days. That's what they say.
And what was the increment between your rounds?
Oh, it was just one day. So in the 10 days that they're like cultivating the stem cells, I was doing all these weird detoxes, like chelation therapy and ozone therapy, and drinking all these like probiotics and just wild. I mean, the detox was crazy. I felt horrible for 10 days. Like, it was like the worst headache of my life. Couldn't get out of bed. It was brutal. And at the end of it, they then turn up with this single syringe with your, however million stem cells they grew, and they just plug it into, different parts of my different lymph nodes. So
over the course of how long? Sorry if I missed that.
20 minutes. Literally came in with an injection, was like, burp, 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 and then I went home the next day. Because that's all.
And
like,
then, yeah.
Because
and then how long until you went back?
I never went. I haven't gone back in 10 years.
Oh,
I just.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
I thought you went 2 or 3 times.
No, I did that
So
once.
this was just your second, the one in LA?
Yeah.
Same process? Similar process?
Totally different. This was a different type of stem cell. It was more for injuries. So I had like a knee injury, and then I had something called disc seal. And disc seal is when they it's this new procedure. I had disc damage in my L4, L5, and they inject this like organic material into your spine. It kind of inflates, it puts fluid back in your disc and seals it from the inside out, so you don't have to have like invasive surgery. And they put stem cell in it. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I've got 3 herniations and 2 bulges. I'd like to learn some more about that too.
Dude, no, like honestly, it's for herniation, bulges, and tears, it's the way to go.
Amazing. Do you know, this is just flying off a little bit, but I've got multiple autoimmune things myself. I've got psoriatic arthritis with markers for rheumatoid, and I have Hashimoto's, which is hypothyroidism. Do you know of any advancements?
And you're a ginger.
And I'm a ginger. And I'm immune to COVID.
You are? Fuck.
Yeah. I've been exposed to it. I was in a 3-hour car drive with the windows closed back from Palm Springs. This was one of many times I've been exposed. And everybody got sick for between 10 days and 3 weeks. Terribly sick. I've never caught COVID.
And have you like participated in any of those clinical trials?
No, but I had Dr. Drew on the show the other day, and I was asking him if there was any truth to the some people have postulated that type O negative blood is immune to it, and he said it's total bullshit. There's nothing to support it, and I believe him. But he says that there. Go ahead.
Drew's like my favorite guest I've had on my podcast. I just love picking his brain.
He knows a lot. You just pull his string and he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about all kinds of things, from addiction to sexual predilections to craziest guests. Fun.
Yeah.
How's Wesley doing?
Oh, Wesley, man, he's still very much an inner circle dog. That he is like my dad's right hand man.
Okay, so Jack's father has a dog named Wesley, a Pomeranian, that my cat found. We were driving in Koreatown on Wilshire Boulevard. My cat Herman, rest his soul, jumped up on the windowsill and went, "Rah." And I said, "What are you looking at?" And I lean over and I see this filthy, scared, dirty Pomeranian on the street. So I pull over, I grab him, I wrap him in a towel, and I take him to the VCA Animal Hospital in West Hollywood to get him scanned for a microchip. And there was no microchip. So I'm like, I don't, my cat hates dogs and he hates cats. I got to find out, I got to rehome this dog. So I'm like, who's into Pomeranians? The Osbournes. Let me try Jack. So I text Jack a photo of it. He goes, hang on, let me send it to my mom. She still helps with rescues. And I just assumed that Sharon was going to rehome him. And I didn't know that you'd kept him for the longest time. So you called me back and you said, go to my parents' house. And I'm like, where do they live now? You gave me the address. I drove over there. I knock on the door. And your housekeeper answers the door and she's like, who are you? And I was like, oh, hi, I'm Jack's friend. I have this dog. And she goes, I don't know nothing about no dog. And she slammed the door in my face. And then your sister Amy came out and I said, hi, Amy, Scott, Nathan. We met years ago through Paris. And she goes, well, don't take the dog, Scott, Nathan. I said, you are taking the dog. Your mom said she's taking the dog. So either you take the dog or I'm going to sit here on these front steps and wait for Sharon to get here. She goes,
you did the hard sell.
Yeah. So she goes, fine, we'll take the dog. And I was so rattled from your sister that I was just like, I just wanted to get out of there. So I jump in a black BMW that I thought was mine, and my key won't work. And I'm pressing and I'm pressing and I'm pressing. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this interior color this is not my car. And I ran off and I was down the street. And then I realized that I left my leash. I left Herman's leash in Amy's car. So tell her that one was on the house if she ever wondered where the ghost leash came from. So anyway, so then months later, I was just like, whatever happened with that dog? And he's just like, oh, that's Wesley. He's the leader of the pack.
Yeah. Wesley he's a motherfucker, but he's very well entrenched in the family.
Now, is he? You said that he nipped at your kids and you. Is he smoothed out at all, or is he still an asshole?
He's smoothed out, but he's still an asshole. Like he's cool with me. He's cool with my kids now, but you don't mess with Wesley. That dude he's the shot caller in the yard, and like no one gets near my dad without him approving it. Like it's wild.
That is the luckiest fucking dog in the world. That dog went from a Korean street dog to the palm of darkness. He eats better than I do, I'm sure.
Oh, fuck yeah, he does. He eats Goop chicken breast nightly.
What is that? Just like a
Goop.
puree? No.
Goop,
wait. Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yes. She has like a restaurant now, and they have really good.
Yeah, I didn't know I didn't know they had pet food. No, I order from Goop Kitchen, and as much as people like to haze Gwyneth,
it's not pet food. He eats Goop chicken.
You gotta be
not
shitting
pet food.
That's a treat for me. And as much as everyone likes to bag on Gwyneth sometimes, I got to tell you, Goop's got great food.
It does. It really, really does. Like it.
And
here's the thing. Goop made me a fan of Gwyneth.
Same. And then I went into her store and I was like, what's this store? Though she has a store in the Brentwood Country Mart.
Mm-hmm. Have
you been there?
I have. I've been to the Country Mart. I've never been to a store.
It's this very eclectic little boutique, and it's just like one or two of everything, but they're all really cool things. Like there's a beautiful toaster oven that's a fortune, and then like some vintage Rolexes and some like really cool Saint Laurent cowboy boots. And it's just like a really curated collection of really dope stuff.
Wow, it's kind of like a female Rob Report kind of thing.
That's exactly what it is, Jack.
Yeah. Oh.
So music, you cannot sing. Your sisters can sing. Your father is one of the best singers ever. You can't sing, right?
No, cannot sing.
You got the business gene.
I hope. I don't know. We'll see. Yet to be revealed.
And you can play drums a little bit.
Little bit. That's the only thing I can get something out of.
But you're not going to be Phil Collins' son and go out with Sabbath.
Nope, that will never happen.
Better chance of cut.
I think that's fucking weird. Like when you see like like, not that he's not, and I said this the other day, someone asked me this, and I think he's incredibly talented, but like Willie Nelson's kid. I saw him play at
Lucas.
like Willie Nelson's like 90th pop, whatever, and um, great singer, but sounds like a Willie Nelson cover singer. And I just find that very odd. I'm like, why don't you go find your own sound? Like,
Yeah.
but also, like, no matter what you do, you will always be compared to you. Like, you could fucking cure cancer as a singer, and like, they would still be like, yeah, but that's Willie Nelson's son, or that's fill in the blanks kid. And I just was like,
Yeah,
I don't
Dickie
know,
Betts' kid.
yeah, it happens a lot, and I know a lot of these people, and I think it's great that they have careers, but I also think like I don't know. My dad always said it best. He's like, I get flattered when I see cover bands, but why, if they're talented enough to cover me, why don't they go find their own sound? If you're talented enough to fill in for your father's shoes, why not go find your own sound?
Fair, but on on the flip side of that, the first Beatles and Stones records were all covers, so everybody kind of starts somewhere.
Totally. Go cover someone else.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
cover.
Yeah.
Don't like.
Don't. Yeah. No. I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. And it's tricky. Whether you do something different or the same, you'll always be, Ozzy Osbourne's son, and that's a big shadow to stand in. And it's like I feel the same way when I talk to Melissa Rivers. Like you're never going to eclipse that.
No, not unless you do something that is so immense. But then there's always that asshole that's going to be, well, yeah, Nepo baby.
True. Or the sibling thing. Like Eric Roberts was a big movie star, and then his little sister Julia came along and exploded. And Lily Collins. But she's doing her own thing.
Yeah.
So what's next? What do you got going on? You're leaving town?
Yeah, going out of town for a little summer vacation. Take the kids up to my place, and I have a place in Idaho, so we're gonna go up there and just kind of knock around. And I'm still trucking away at Osbourne Media House. We're doing podcasts weekly, and fine tuning it, tweaking it. It's great.
I haven't met Maple yet. I want to.
You will. I'm sure you will at some point.
Pearl,
she's a firecracker.
Jack's eldest, Pearl, is very smooth. She's very clever. The last time I went by the house, she said, "Hi, Scott. Do you remember me, Pearl?" I was like, "Yes, of course I remember you." And she goes, "Would you like some birthday cake?" And I said, "I know what you're doing right now, Pearl." I said, "Ask your dad if it's okay." And you heard the whole thing, and you were like, "Yeah, give him some cake. Have some cake." She was trying to offer it to me so she could get the cake.
Yeah, just a Selena. It's a little backhanded. Hey,
no, she's
I can have some. Yeah,
she's smooth.
Yeah, she's great. She's my buddy.
All right, pal. Well, it's great having you. Thanks for taking the time out.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah, give a shout when you're back in town, and let's get together.
I will. You're on. All right, so.
All right, thank you.
All right, later.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Bad Decision Podcast, and thanks to my guest, Jack Osbourne. Please follow and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. And if you don't have it already, please pick up a copy of The Big Book of Bad Decisions by yours truly. You can get it at Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Apple, and wherever you buy books.